This is the best Victoria hand deck I have ever played. It's so good that I even pulled for her Spotlight variant. Victoria Hand is a 2/3 with an ongoing ability that gives cards that were created in your hand +2 power. I think a lot of people are not necessarily overlooking Victoria Hand right now, but thinking that she sort of comes second to Iron Patriot. And as far as I can tell, that does not seem to be true. They work incredibly well together. Iron Patriot and Victoria Hand are probably in most of each other's decks, which is actually kind of clever when you consider that she is his second in command in the Dark Reign storyline as Norman Osborn takes over America. However, the reason that she's so strong is due to what happens when you copy her. At baseline, if she's buffing a couple cards, she's a 2/7, she's a 2/9, that's really nice, you're very into that. However, if you Nico Minoru and copy her, the second Victoria gets both buffs, suddenly it's a 2/7 and you're giving +4 to everything. If you Frigga her, then you're gonna get another Victoria hand that is gonna be giving even more buffs to everything. And that's where the real power ceiling of this card is. It's not in necessarily making a bunch of stuff that she buffs, but in making sure that stuff is getting +4 or +6. And that also goes with a variety of other powerful cards in this deck to enable massive power plays. This video is sponsored by Arcane Rush Battlegrounds, an auto battler with an asynchronous battle mechanic that means it respects your time so much more than many other games in the genre. Like many of you, I was first attracted to Marvel Snap because of the quick speed of games, allowing me to go from playing a game to doing something else very quickly. Arcane Rush has a similar mechanic, where the games that you play are against people, but at asynchronous times. You can put the game down, you can come back to it, it doesn't particularly care what you're doing. Play for 8 hours, play for 2 minutes. And I think that level of time respect is a very unique mechanic that I'm very happy is in a game like this. Arcane Rush has more than 100 different cards, split up into 8 races, each of which has a unique mechanic. Demons, for example, are focused on discarding cards. You also have heroes that imbue you with special mechanics and relics that are really important to changing how you approach the game turn by turn. One tip I have for you is to focus on tempo in the early rounds before transitioning to a more synergistic game plan. The game feels smooth, clean, and fun, and the asynchronous battle mechanic means that it should appeal to many people in the same way that Marvel Snap does. It respects that you may have other things to do. When the money is calling, when you're at work and your boss wants to have a meeting, but you're in the middle of a game, this is the right game to be in the middle of. Finally, the game is free to play, and you can support both it and me by taking a look through the link in the description, which is my sponsored link. Thank you so much to Arcane Rush Battlegrounds for sponsoring this video, and I'll see you on the battlegrounds. This is the list, and I got it from Derek, who actually seems to have cooked up something really nice this time. You might look at this and look at it as a bit of a pile. Oh, you're doing a bunch of weird stuff. A lot of that is because this type of deck hasn't been easily recognizable as a package before. And I think a lot of people aren't really grasping what the packages that can make this deck up are. The packages here are like the Victoria Hand Iron Patriot package, the Misery Hood package, and of course the Anti-Venom Luke Cage package. Now the reason all of this stuff is really good is because all of it kind of overlaps with Frigga. You obviously love copying whatever you get from Iron Patriot. You love copying 1/6 demons. You love copying any good card in your entire deck as long as you have a Victoria Hand, because that means she's buffing it +2. You love copying your free cost card off of an Anti-Venom that is then going to get all its power back thanks to Luke Cage. And because you are half a Luke Cage deck, you are good into other Luke Cage decks that are looking to leverage Affliction. So you not only have a bunch of power in really weird ways, you also have very relevant tech cards for the metagame. Luke Cage is being run just in Wiccan decks that don't necessarily have any synergy with him because he's awesome right now. Red Guardian is the exact same kind of thing. So I think a lot of people will look at this and be like, oh, this looks like a pile, KM. Don't you usually play good cards decks? And my response to that is, this is the good cards deck. This is just a bunch of really absurd cards that go really well together. The main ethos here is to use the cards that you have to keep their point total down, whether that be Luke Cage related in terms of them having, Rocket and Groot or whatnot, or Red Guardianing them to keep them down. And then you're going to just try to generate as much points as you possibly can. Iron Patriot discounting into something that has a lot of endgame potential. You can make your Iron Patriot happen again with a Misery. You can use Anti-Venom and Luke Cage and then Frigga the thing that you get off of that. You can copy your demons. You can make more demons with your Misery. There's a lot that this deck does that has not necessarily been part of good cards decks before, but I think the way it's played to me makes me feel like this is very much a good cards deck that finally got the pieces it needed in the form of V-Hand and Iron Patriot. The Hood is quite good in this list, but mostly because of Misery. It can be a real downer in terms of how this list plays out if you aren't able to get to Misery, but being able to create 2 6-power guys is just ridiculous when you consider that they can get to 8 or 10 power as well, thanks to Victoria Hand. There are multiple avenues towards having a bunch of cheap big guys in this deck, whether you take the Frigga the Iron Patriot target route, or the Frigga the Demon route, or the Misery the Hood route. There's a lot of different ways to get a bunch of things that cost like 0, 1, or 2 and have really big bodies, and then just have that be your final turn of the game. And that is ultimately what this deck is really trying to leverage. It's just trying to get people by having them underestimate your power output. And your power output in this deck is massive. Nico Minoru is a bit of a high roll card. There are upsides that she has, of course. Like if you want to draw 2 cards, you basically always want to draw 2 cards. There are very few situations where you don't want to. It usually involves having something better than that to do, which is not a bar that this deck necessarily struggles to reach, but it can. And then, of course, there is also the clone, which is just bonkers. If you can clone something that is very cheap, that is what we are playing Frigga to do. Frigga is a 3/4. This is a 1/2. So if you're able to get like a turn 1 clone, turn 2 Victoria Hand, you probably just win the game. There have been games where it's turn 1 Nico clone, turn 2 Victoria Hand, turn 3 Frigga. It's just actually over. That is a snap condition. You are going to beat basically everything with those numbers because you have Luke Cage, you have Red Guardian. Most of the things that would be able to compete with you are going to be weak to that kind of stuff. And so this ends up being a card that is not necessarily always good. There are definitely some bad ones, but like even doing something like getting the buff of power onto something and then using Misery to get that second proc of the Forge effect that this card has, that can be useful too. Don't get too caught up in making sure you get the nut roll with this card unless you need the nut roll to win the game. Mirage's normal downside is that she's not a card that gets big stuff out of your opponent's hand. In other words, you're usually getting something that kind of sucks. Right now, there's a lot of people playing the Hood, like us, and there's a lot of people playing Iron Patriot, like us, and there's a lot of people playing Victoria Hand, like us, and we really want to copy all of that stuff. But even outside of that, the fact that she gets cheap stuff in your deck where you are reasonably attempting to stack Victoria Hands and play a large volume of cheap stuff on the final turn of the game, you are actually almost always more interested in your average cheap card because you can fit it into your curve better than in most other things your opponents can give. So while this is sort of a metagame call, it also just goes better with what V-Hand does. Hawkeye puts 2 cards in your hand, both of which were created in your hand, and both of which get buffed by Victoria Hand. Say that 5 times fast. This is one of the best cards in the deck. It is absolutely crucial for some of your later turns, because a lot of what you're setting up for on the final turn is playing a bunch of small cards. Hawkeye is going to give you those small cards. She is excellent at doing it, a very powerful card. There is nothing bad that I can say about this card. She is just excellent. I've seen a lot of buzz about nerfing Iron Patriot, and personally, I didn't really agree until I started playing this deck. And playing this deck makes me feel like this card might actually be on that trajectory. That is how strong this card has felt in here. I don't even know if it's the best card in here. It's just like, just another way of doubling up on copying something stupid. Whether that be a 1/6, whether that be a Victoria hand, whether that be the card you get from Iron Patriot, the card you get from Anti-Venom, you're gonna do something stupid with a Frigga, and a lot of that is down to this card. If you get something really good off Iron Patriot and then you're able to Frigga it, well, that thing was really good and now it's happening twice. Multiple Doctor Dooms, sure. Multiple Gores, sure. Do what you want. Victoria Hand, I think, has been treated as a bit of a second fiddle to Iron Patriot, and a lot of that is because Iron Patriot is very obviously good and also very obviously goes in a bunch of stuff. So there's going to be a bunch of decks that can play Iron Patriot and not as many decks that can play Victoria Hand. In addition, a lot of the stuff people cooked up on day one for Victoria Hand didn't really have a lot of longevity. Moon Girl, she's like fine, but it's not like a reason to buy her. This deck feels like a reason to buy her. Being able to copy this effect feels legitimately pretty messed up. And what this card can do in concert with, Anti-Venom, Misery, all the other ridiculous stuff that you run here, being able to proc things multiple times, create multiple cards, that's really useful. I think one of the things that a lot of Victoria Hand decks sort of fall into is they run too many card generators and not just the good ones. And what Misery lets this deck do is run specifically the good ones, Kate Bishop, Frigga, and of course the Hood. And then you don't have to worry about oh, I'm running Agent Coulson and the cards suck, or I need a Quinjet or whatever. You just always run the stuff that's really cheap. Even Mirage is getting cheap stuff. Iron Patriot is getting cheap stuff. These are all getting cheap cards, and that's the kind of thing that this card wants. And I think this kind of deck is what really optimizes her ability. Luke Cage is one of the very best tech cards in the entire game, but the real reason that you're playing it is because every single Affliction deck folds to this card 100% of the time. If you are doing something that is able to have a splash Anti-Venom Luke Cage, it is almost always worth doing because Anti-Venom on its own is extremely good. Bringing Luke Cage with it means that you are also able to splash into bigger things because you are always going to have a more coherent points game plan in your non-Afflict-based Luke Cage Anti-Venom deck than the Afflict-based Luke Cage Anti-Venom deck will have into you because you run Luke Cage and they're more invested in the Afflicts actually happening. There is nowhere where this is clearer than when you consider the card Ajax versus literally any card in our deck. That's a 5/7. Every single card in our deck is better than that if we have Luke Cage out. I think Red Guardian is kind of approaching genuinely nerfable territory, honestly. This card's quite strong. There's a lot that this card does, and it just covers so many random bases, deals with so much garbage in the metagame right now. It is a real problem solver to the point that one of the upsides of having the Hood in this deck is that you can play stuff in the lane with the Hood and not worry about it getting Red Guardian and then blow it up later with a Misery. That actually matters a lot, and that should really go to show you just how ridiculous Red Guardian is in terms of wide-ranging applicability. It's great against Luke Cages. It's great against Victoria Hands. It's great against Madam Webs. It's great against everything. This card is just great. It's an absolute banger. What this deck wants in this slot is something that is not going to get absolutely 100% cucked by Anti-Venom, and is also going to be a reasonable stat card that you can play to back up an Iron Patriot. You're not always going to need to back up an Iron Patriot with something that is 3/5 or bigger, but it can help a lot. One of the upsides of being a Hood deck is that you're almost always able to win your Iron Patriot lanes because you have a freaking 1/6. The other thing that this card does, though, is in those games where that isn't happening, you are able to play something reasonably big. A lot of people are skimping on Iron Patriot activators right now. By that I mean their turn 3 card in the Iron Patriot lane is a Luke Cage or an Agent Coulson or something. And I kind of think that in the world where you match up in terms of both of you having Iron Patriot and they're playing Coulson, you want something that's going to go bigger than that. You just do. And I think that's what this card is doing here. I think if you wanted a budget replacement, a good option could be Rocket and Groot or even Cassandra Nova. Here's the part where everyone closes the video. Yeah, you need Frigga to play this deck. All right, bye. It's been a pleasure. I know you're going to close the video now. You don't own Frigga. You yell at me in the comments. I totally understand. This is a Frigga deck. I realize what a ridiculous statement that is, but it is a Frigga deck. Your nut draw involves you playing Frigga onto Victoria hand. Your other nut draws involve you playing Frigga onto 1/6s or onto the stuff you get off of Iron Patriot. She's actually the card that makes this deck work, as depressing as that may be. And so there's a little bit of apprehension as I make this video, because I think this deck is super cool and super neat. And it uses a lot of cards that haven't been used well before. But because those are cards that haven't been used well before, there's going to be a lot of people that don't have them. And that sucks. And Frigga is definitely one of those, and Misery is another one. I should not need to wax poetic about this card any more than I already have. I am convinced it is one of the best cards in the game. I am convinced that it shouldn't be a 4/7. I am convinced that everyone else must be bad for this card not to have amazing stats at every level. The card is phenomenal, and right now I consider it and Luke Cage. It's almost like Pixie Mobius if both cards were good, right? Like, imagine Pixie Mobius in a Serra meta and how good that would be. And then imagine instead of being like a 2/1, Pixie was like a 2/4. And then you start to understand what this card is and what it does as part of that kind of equation. It's just phenomenal. It's just an unbelievably strong card, one of the best in the game, extremely good. Misery is quite solid in here, as much as I hate to say it. Being able to reuse the hood is obviously like the primary use case, but there's I guess 1B use case is being able to reuse Iron Patriot. Because hey, you're already winning that lane, right? You might as well play a 4/8 Iron Patriot. You're into that, right? And so then you have this is just another way of doubling up on the powerful, cheap on reveals that also synergize with Victoria hand, because all of these are cards you're creating in your hand, and they're all going to be able to do ridiculous stuff once they get that buff. This is a powerful card in this context, and I do think that it is worth running, honestly. It's just straight up good. And I was surprised by that as much as anyone, honestly. It did not... when I looked at this deck, my first thought was, oh, this looks like a pile, and I really had to play it to get it. But as soon as you play it, you will get it. You will understand what this deck is doing. All right, y'all, thank you so much for watching this video. As always, I have been KM Best. You have been phenomenal. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you didn't click off the video the second I told you there wasn't a good budget replacement for Frigga, thank you so much for allowing me to do what I do. And of course, you've been phenomenal. I will see you in the next one. Have a good one. Kate goes in more decks, though. Oh! What the fuck? What the fuck? Isle Silence doesn't matter. Literally does not matter. You're like, oh, that matters. It doesn't. The Mirage might matter, but we get 2 V hands still. It's beyond fuck. That is the worst possible thing. We're still probably shitting on them. Okay. Mirage the card than Mirage? Nah, our Patriot's just way better here. Holy fuck. They only get 1 card. It just kills off the other. This is insane, but I don't know, man. Chat, I just realized something. I should have done this in the other order, so I could fucking Frigga the V-hand again. He's in this channel. He better be closing this, but, like, he still knows the deck, which is a problem. I kind of didn't expect them to actually contest it, so we've got that going for us. Play around NTW? Yeah, that makes sense. I don't think this deck has Killmonger. Do I just outpoint that? I don't know how many points I have. I think it's a lot. I do. Eliath? No, I don't think so. I also don't think it matters. Holy shit. What the fuck? They actually just have Killmonger. What? What? I still hate it. I hate it so much, dude. I have a turn 1 Nico Minoru and you're snapping me. Alright. IP Skrull sounds like the worst crossover of all time. Real. Oh wait, I'm an idiot. Why'd I do this again? I'm a moron. I'm actually a huge moron. Okay. Somehow not a huge moron. Haven't figured that out, but I certainly felt like a huge moron. I may have backdoored my way out of this. I am now concerned about a Shang-Chi of some kind, but I don't think they're in that business. I don't think they're a Shanger gamers. You know what I mean? I just don't think that's their deal. I just don't think they're about that. If they have the Shang, they have the Shang. But I can't really play around it, so... Oh, get the fuck out. Sick ass, but still get the fuck out. The Super Scroll goes crazy, but still get the fuck out. We could have not played the second hand. Yeah, but be real. I don't think it's realistic to try to sacrifice power on that lane. Does a pooling gamer end up in that match? It actually happens fairly regularly. I don't think that's good enough. This game seems fucking insanely over. I'm not gonna lie to you. I think it's still possible to, like, lose the left lane on an acid arrow, but that's kind of it. They stayed, which I respect the shit out of, but I don't think they even come close here. I genuinely don't think they even come close here. That Negasonic is baller, but like, dog. That Negasonic is super baller, but like, dog. I think that actually just is what happened. The Hood. Which kind of the Hood deck are they? Are they this kind of the Hood deck? Or are they the other kind of the Hood deck? The kind where they Viper me. It'd be really bad if they were the Clog kind. You have no interest in college football? I have interest. I just have a job, unfortunately. Actually, I kind of think this is slick. Okay, now I feel like they're sniping me. See, I'm going to do this. They're snapping, and I'm not going to get the demon. Right? Like, that's... Okay, no, they did give me the demon. Wow. Boy. Boy! Holy shit. Give me my 4 cubes, dude. Give me my fucking 4 cubes, dude. Get out of here. Get out of here. Oh my god, dude. Get the fuck out. Jesus Christ. Brother. Brother. Are the Fight Me prompts for your YouTube series posted on Elon's website? Unfortunately. That is so cash money. Does Mindscape... Does V-Hand buff Mindscape? No, right? It's like drawing them? Oh, shit, dude. Oh, that's so painful. Oh, okay. It's still bad, but, you know. She is silenced on the copy. She's getting her buff. Oh, shit. I spaced all of this. I'm an idiot and a half. I'm an idiot and a half. Okay, I feel like you're really just cruising for a banning. Sensational, would you care to have a conversation about what you're doing, or do you just want me to ban you? Because I timed you out earlier for making fun of me repeatedly after demanding I reread your message. So what's the deal? What's going on here? Why didn't misery work? Because we got rid of the fucking thing. Was he giving me a discounted card? He's not. I feel like I'm still dead. See, I go to 22. I literally have no idea what happens here. That's my AV. Do they have something else really good? Red G? Oh shit. We win a tiebreaker by 1 total point across 3 lanes. Holy shit. What the fuck? I believe. I think you play for Frigga on Raft card. I have plenty of insane Raft shit, though, is the thing. Can play without misery and speed? No. That's what this deck's about. What up, though? Wow! Ass! That shit is ass! Holy fuck! We need to figure something. I don't think we can. Straight up, I don't think we can. Frigga the Taskmaster? What, with Iron Patriot? The basic arrow goes up if you play there? Yeah, but what do you mean it's 8? The last card I played was the Acid Arrow. What are you talking about? Okay, so it's speed, and it's big, and it's big. What are we doing? Darkhawk? That's fucking tiny. Everyone laugh at the tiny Darkhawk. What the fuck? No! Holy shit.